He left me all his possessions.
You're his next of kin. Well, he named you his next of kin. What does that feel like? Because when I heard about that, I was like, imagine the most notorious serial killer in US history names you his next of kin. Does that have some sort of psychological effect?
Is there any end to the psychological effect of that? I mean, I have a box full of fan letters, of serial killer fan letters
Wow.
in my garage. I have the ashes of a serial killer behind my sponges, and we can't figure out what the hell we're going to do with them.
Jillian, thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Van.
My pleasure. You are a New York Times best-selling author and a true crime journalist. Yeah, and you're also married to Scott Schreiner from the band Weezer, which
I
is
am indeed.
fanning out here a little bit, but yeah.
It's hard. I know. It's hard for me not to fan out.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with that music, so it's great. Jillian, you recently you did a documentary confronting a serial killer, which handles the whole Samuel Little case. He is now known officially as the most prolific serial killer in US history.
According to the FBI.
What made you pursue? How did you get into this whole thing with Samuel Little? Because it's basically it's almost like a Clarice Starling, Hannibal Lecter type situation.
You know, I really thought that was the cliche when I started. And the reason I started was because I'd been writing memoir for a very long time.
Yeah.
And, I've also always written fiction. And I went in to write a mystery novel, like a proper mystery novel. And I started interviewing detectives in LA. I started interviewing the detectives in the LAPD. And I started talking to best-selling author Michael Connelly, who really mentored me and sort of talked me through. When I started interviewing these cops, so Detective Mitzi Roberts is this phenomenal, legendary detective, and I scored that interview. I'll say it again.
Fine.
That was my if you're late alarm.
Perfect.
Mitzi Roberts is a legendary detective, and I scored the unscorable interview and talked to her about police procedure, how to read an investigation report, her work with the Black Dahlia, departmental politics. At the very end of the interview, I said, well, what are you most proud of? Because that's how I tend to end an interview. If I've really gone for the jugular,
Yeah.
You want to bring it up. And what are you most proud of? She said, I caught this serial killer once. It was really cool. And I was like, how did I bury that lead? Like, how are we at the last of our iced tea? And I just heard you caught a serial killer. And she told me that, that she had nailed this serial killer, Samuel Little, for 3 murders in LA due to a Department of Justice grant that gave the LAPD money to run DNA on old evidence, on cold cases. And that's how they got Sam. They got three DNA hits, right?
Yeah.
On 3 murders of prostitutes in the 80s in LA who turned up in trash cans almost every day in the 80s in LA, and I'm not joking.
And that was Guadalupe Apodaca, Audrey Nelson Everett, and Denise Christie Brothers, right?
No, Carol Alford. Denise Christie Brothers was the Texas case.
Oh, sure.
that brought this into the present, right?
Okay.
So they put him away. They got him.
Yeah.
Mitzi Roberts, it's a thrilling story I couldn't believe I fell into, and also be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
I was writing a cool mystery novel, and I wound up, in the midst of a storm of the FBI, the Department of Justice, like police departments across the country, victims, family members. I could not have imagined what I was getting myself into, but I thought, if anyone can do it, I can. Like, I'm going to get in there. And she said, I know there are so many more women across the country. It was the most important thing as a cop was to get them behind bars, right?
Yeah.
Get them off the street. That doesn't necessarily mean you can prove the 86 other 93. I mean, the official number of confessions is 91. The official number of closures is 61, which does make him, as far as the FBI, it might be 63 now. We're two right in the, there were two that they're still working on that are really close. So, I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling, and you can't really spiral into them. You just one at a time.
Yeah.
You talk to the cops one at a time, talk to the FBI one at a time, look at each victim one at a time. And that's how I learned, and that's how I got into it. And then I said, like, if anyone can talk to a psycho, I can, because my father was a professional gambler. And and I mean, I could play poker by the time I was 11.
Okay.
So I said, if anyone can sit there and look someone in the eye and like process this, I can do it. I'm going in there. I'm going to a men's maximum security prison. Also, maybe I have a little bit of a urge for adrenaline and an edge. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
That's part of the cocktail. Anyone can do it, I can. And then I did, and I was really surprised. I was like, I can't believe it's happening, and now I'll actually have to do this. And I met him, and I talked to him every day for years, like a psychopath of unbelievable brutality.
Because Mitzi initially, am I right in saying Mitzi initially said she suspected there were more victims? Because,
right. And there were cops across the country who felt the same way, but it's very hard. It's very hard to close a cold case from before, DNA is so recent. And also, you're looking at jurisdictions. In terms of Sam Little, he was, working in like poor southern cities. Half of the evidence was wiped out in Katrina.
Yeah.
There is no evidence.
Yeah.
But there are still cops across the country who are devoted, and I was able to talk to them and start to bring it together. But in order for that to happen, like, a journalist needed to put heat on the story.
Yeah. Because, I mean,
someone needed to get interested.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, he had a rap sheet going back to the 70s. And
his rap sheet, like, no one I know has ever seen, including the district attorney, DDA, Beth Silverman, who has prosecuted Chester Turner, the Grim Sleeper. Like, she has prosecuted almost every serial killer in Los Angeles. She said she had never seen anything like it.
Yeah, because he was arrested in, like, I think 24 different states as well. And
every other day.
Yeah.
But you know what he was arrested for?
Shoplifting or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Petty theft.
Yeah.
right? So he said, I'm sitting in a jail cell for petty theft. That's how they've pegged me, right? I get out, I get in the car, I go murder someone.
Yeah, he played. I mean, his victimology was so. You know, if serial killing was kind of a chess game, he pretty much nailed it because of his. You know, I think in his own words, he basically went after people that, you know, society didn't really account for,
Right.
like your
Yeah, they were
prostitutes.
called the less dead.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to go over there in the white neighborhood and pick out the little young teenage girl or like the idiots do. You know?
And
Right. And that I didn't invent that, but like I did sort of bring it into
yeah.
popular consciousness at this point, and because it was invented by an academic, Stephen
Mm.
Eggers, who has passed. But yeah, the less dead. I mean, they would say they'd call in a homicide. Um, there's been a 187 on 5th and Main.
Mm.
187's a homicide. NHI. No humans involved.
Yeah, that's rough.
Or there's a homicide, it's a no one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And well, what's your
And
opinion?
that's not an implication of law enforcement in general, because like I said, there were fantastic cops who were fighting
Yeah.
the whole time. Doesn't mean they always won or that the rest of the social justice system supported them. I mean, everyone's like, it was bad cops who ignored black dead hookers.
Yeah.
And yes, it was. And also, it was a jury of his peers who acquitted him.
Well, I
Three
think
times.
3 times. Yeah.
3 times, not for petty theft, for attempted murder, for assault, for, in which there were survivors, there were eyewitness victims. There were eyewitness victims who were black prostitutes in Pascagoula, Mississippi, who weren't even allowed to testify at the grand jury because one of them had to walk all the way to the courthouse, pregnant. 8 months pregnant, and when she saw Sam Little in that courtroom, she urinated on the floor. They made her clean it up and walk home, and she did not testify.
Jeez, wow.
And that's one of the 4 victims who lived.
I remember reading Hilda, I think it was Hilda McLean. Was it her? Yeah, and she said, she said nobody's going to believe a prostitute in Mississippi in 1982.
And that she's absolutely right. And also, Sergeant Detective Darren Versaga, who has fought for them from the very beginning, confirms it. I sat in a room with the 2 of them, and he said, I'm ashamed to say it. I was a police cadet at the time.
Yeah.
And it's true, you couldn't commit a crime against a black prostitute in Mississippi. There wasn't a crime. It wasn't a person.
Yeah, so that's how, it explains how he got away with all this stuff for so long. He just played the system, basically. And,
he played the system like,
I mean, he had a gift for
harmonic.
Yeah. He had a gift for picking vulnerable people.
And he said it to me 100 times. He's like, when it didn't start this way. It started with me very scared and humble, but you talk to someone for years and you start to just get like, stop bullshitting me. Like, which I think is an interesting piece of the book. Like, most people don't get to that point of the conversation.
Yeah.
Psychopath, right? You do 1 or 2 interviews, not years of them, until you're like, I'm so sick of this. You don't love women. You don't believe this. You hate women. Stop feeding me this bullshit. No one's paying me for a book about this bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what makes it that's what makes you so effective in this whole thing. Because I don't think a lot of people, would have the guts to say that to someone like, to a serial killer.
It took a while.
Well, why did he?
It took a while of being so, like, both amazed by the people I met on the journey he gave me. I traveled across the country. I talked to his family. Fascinating, like, wonderful people. I'm the only people they talk to. I talked to victims. I talked to cops. I was in Florida. I was in Mississippi. I was in steel towns in Ohio. And I think, that I'm grateful to him on some level. I had this journey.
Yeah.
And all these fascinating things. But at the end of the day, I just got sick of it. I got sick of his sociopathic justifications. I got sick of his using God as an apologist.
Yeah.
How they all are saved and God made them this way, and God made a perfect world.
So he was trying to justify it.
Well, I mean, no. God justified it.
Well, in his mind, yeah. And was he deeply religious? In some sick way?
All right. He'll say, that's Jesus. It's not me. It's Jesus. It's the Bible, Jillian.
So in some sick way.
He said all sins are the same. All sins are the same. And killing a woman is the same thing as stealing a cookie from the cookie jar.
Wow.
And I said, Sam, I think even in the Bible there is a sort of hierarchy, and it starts with maybe one, and then I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, bring it up. You went to religious school. I'm like, one is, I am your God.
Yeah.
There shall be no other gods before me. Two is what? And like, he couldn't make it through one.
Okay.
So yes, he was deeply religious and always forgiven.
In his own mind.
Know the 10 Commandments.
Wow. Okay.
And killing a woman is the same thing as stealing a cookie from the cookie jar. And I said, Sam, which commandment is do not steal the cookie from the cookie jar?
Like, which book did you read?
Which book did you read?
Yeah, which version did you? Which Bible version did you get?
Well, you know what's insane? I'm going to answer because I have it. He left me all his possessions.
You're his next of kin. Well, he named you his next of kin. What does that feel like? Because when I heard about that, I was like, imagine the most notorious serial killer in US history names you his next of kin. Does that have some sort of psychological effect?
Is there any end to the psychological effect of that? I mean, I have a box full of fan letters, of serial killer fan letters.
Wow.
In my garage. I have the ashes of a serial killer behind my sponges, and we can't figure out what the hell we're going to do with them. I am not kidding.
Wow.
And my kid was sick and home from school that day when finally the coroner's office called me and said, can you pick up this man's ashes so nothing happens like happened with Manson, which is like basically a shrine. They're like, we believe that you're a, respectable person who can deal with this, in a way that's, I don't know, maybe classy is not the word, but like, you're not going to make a shrine to Manson. Can you get rid of these ashes?
Yeah.
So my 10-year-old is home from school sick. And I'm like, be right there. I'm like, get in the car, honey. We're going to the coroner's office. We're going to the coroner's office to get a serial killer's ashes, and I'll make you some soup. And he's like, real nice, Mom. Real nice. And I was just like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Do you like shoes?
Yeah.
This is my job.
Yeah.
This is my job. And also, it's an important one. And you don't ever, and they never, of course, hear the details. But they know what you do in general. They don't hear the details of these things. I make sure everyone's got their headphones on.
Yeah.
When I do a podcast, you know, or I took those phone calls, you know, like no one could hear, no one had to hear that voice except me. But they know what I do. But yeah, nice mom, real nice. We're going to the coroner. Get in the car. We're going to the coroner's office.
It's like,
I mean, it's surreal, and also we're adaptable. Humans are adaptable.
Yeah.
It became my life.
You
know, and it'll still be my life because I guess I'm good at it. And I made a difference. I made a difference to a lot of people, and they have really talked to me about that.
Well, you brought, I suppose, you brought closure to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I solved murders. It's, you know, there's not another journalist who really that, like, from bottom to the top, here it is. And, you know, like, that's what I hold on to. That's what gets me through the night. I decided I wanted to take a break from murder, and I really love dressage riding. I ride horses, so I was just like, I'm gonna do a horsey book, right? I'm gonna do research on dressage, right? Like, this is how I'm gonna get away with riding horses.
switch off and escape.
Right, switch, escape. No, do not start researching like dressage horses or race horses. I was like, I don't know what's worse. Like, what brutality is worse? I'm like, now I'm back on murder. If it's what I do, it's what I do. I can't do the horses. I'm crying uncle.
Yeah, animal cruelty is different. It's just it's different. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
It hits like a place where, which is the place where we all need to look, I think. And at the same time, we're looking at serial, like, why is it more upsetting to me that they electrocute $1 million racehorses because, like, their insurance policy is running up and they're too old? And also, you can't shoot them in the head because then you don't get the insurance money.
Yeah.
Like, that is, you know, that's so vile to me. And yet I can sit and talk to somebody who, you know, I heard the last words of women's lives.
Yeah. Wow, that is,
you know, and the horses are more upsetting somehow. It's like I think it's like we almost can't summon the empathy for a number of, like, 93 victims. It seems impossible.
Yeah, it's strange with animals. I've always said I like animals more than people. There's just kind of like this innocence and this built-in goodness with animals, which is just so natural. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. But why
you know what? Also, there was an innocence and a bolt of goodness in Denise Brothers and Audrey Nelson.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying.
I'm not saying we're prioritizing either. I'm just saying, like, the horses. I was like, I'm out. I cry uncle on this. I can't look at it. So why, you know? I feel like it hits that piece of empathy that's like innocence.
Yeah.
Right? And goodness. Or that's not even the question. You don't have to be good. You know, you don't have to be good. You don't have to be right. You still don't decide. I mean, you still don't deserve to be strangled to death.
No, I mean,
you know,
definitely.
I mean, so to look at that is a different thing.
Why do you
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Kara. Why did he open up to you? Because he opened up to you and a Texas Ranger by the name of James Holland. Did you guys work together on finding more victims?
No.
Okay.
James Holland and I, it was like the perfect storm. We showed up at the same time.
Okay.
So the same time I figured out there was this underreported serial killer, here is this Texas Ranger. Exactly what you meant. 6'3" and a cowboy hat like that made him 6'7".
Yeah.
And there were Wranglers and a pair of cowboy boots. I'm like, I'm sure you wrestled that animal to death yourself. Like he's such a cowboy.
Yeah.
And he also is this expert in talking to serial killers or psychopaths, which I'm arguably, I don't know why. But yeah, maybe I do. Maybe it's my gambler father. I don't know. Maybe I got hit in the head. Like they all did. I don't know. But he has a real talent for it. And we sort of descended upon Sam at the same time. So he found a Texas case. That was Denise Brothers.
Okay.
All right. He needed a Texas case in order to come and interview Sam because he has no jurisdiction here in California otherwise. Right? He's not a federal agent. He's a Texas Ranger. So Texas Rangers, in case you don't know, are not just a baseball team. They are an elite, because everyone thought, which I was actually pretty impressed with myself. I was like, I'm going to Texas to see a Texas Ranger, and they were like, oh my gosh, are you having an affair with a baseball player? And I was like, I am so flattered. I'm so flattered you think that I'm going to Texas for my marital affair with a baseball player. But no, I am going to interview a police officer. But they have a sort of multi-jurisdictional power within the state of Texas, and they're able to come in and provide support to local jurisdictions who maybe don't have the same access to, like, they can get your DNA pushed through faster. They you can, and they can communicate with people who perhaps you don't know might be influential to you if you're living in Odessa, Texas, right? Okay. So he needed Denise Brothers to open up the interviews. He needed a Texas case. So as he came to interview Sam about Denise Brothers with the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are sure they've got the most prolific serial killer in American history. All of a sudden, this nosy, busybody journalist shows up. And who, in an open case, right? So, like, I had to kind of make a deal with them to keep my mouth shut because I could publish it at any time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's our First Amendment frontier. I actually get to do this.
Yeah.
And I believe in myself as a journalist as an essential piece in accountability, especially if you're getting 93 confessions.
Yeah.
I mean, right? There should be a journalist there.
Yeah.
Like, let me check the mileage on that.
Yeah.
Were you really in Portland and then 4 minutes later in, New Orleans? No. So I'm going to toss that one out.
Yeah.
And so I'm a pain in the ass to law enforcement. I really am. And also there are those who love me and cooperate with me and know that like what I really do is care.
Yeah.
Is care that they solve these cases. So if that means shut my mouth and don't get my story, if it means maybe I get scooped, if it mean, you know, I'll keep my mouth shut if that's what it takes to get these confessions. You know, but then at the end of the day, the story's mine.
Yeah.
And still the story's mine. But
Yes.
it, you know, it I can't remember the point of the story. Oh, my relationship with Jim Holland. Yes, now I remember.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most challenging and interesting relationship of my life professionally. I have never hollered at a cop before. Also, if I can, may I swear on your podcast?
Go for it.
I told the FBI to go get fucked.
Okay.
And spent a year apologizing for it. I was like, I am sorry. You lied to me. I got really mad.
What did they lie to you about?
So well, they told me if I kept my mouth shut, I'd get the scoop.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right.
I gave it, and then they gave it to the LA Times.
Wow. Yeah, that's such
I know.
That's such a dick thing to do.
It is such a dick thing to do, but I did know in my heart, because of course all my friends are journalists. Yes, we all do know each other.
Yeah.
You know, I knew in my heart the FBI doesn't give exclusives. I knew they were lying to me. And I kind of took it anyway and trusted that even if I don't get to be the first, I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm gonna be the best at this story.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a daily reporter. I don't necessarily need the scoop. What I need is the in-depth story. I need the truth. I need to talk to the victims' families. I need to really spend the time. So give the story to the LA Times for a minute and a half. You know, no one talked to Sam but me.
And why did he open up to you? What was it about you that made him just like, you know, spill it? Is it because you called him out on his bullshit?
No. Okay. Sam did not open up to me because I called him out on anything at first. It's actually because I'm a magical fairy who can make psychopaths tell the truth. No, it's because I bought him a TV.
Wow. So okay, that's all
the fucking truth. No,
wow.
I did break it down. I was like, how much? Like, I was like, I'm giving him 2 days. All right, I had to wait in line for the amount of time you have to wait in line to get into a maximum security prison here. The misery they put these families through, like the kindness of women to each other and families to each other. It was like actually, you know, another gift of this hideous story. But why did he open up to me? Because at the end of the second day, I was like, no one's paying me for a story about how swell you are.
Okay.
So, you know, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah.
A TV. You gonna buy me a TV? And I was like, I don't know, am I? And he said, you got me. You got me. What do you know? What do you want to know about? You want to hear about the first one?
Wow.
Yeah.
And did he?
I'm a magical fairy who solicits, you know, confessions with my magic psychic powers. And also I understand that psychopaths are transactional. There are no magic powers. Like, I'm going to give him something. He's going to give me something.
Okay.
I'm going to stick to my part of the bargain. And the bargain turned out to be, I said, you will not die alone.
Okay. All right.
How about that?
Wow.
You know, first it was a TV. And then it was, you give me the story of a lifetime. You give me a best-selling book, motherfucker, and I will stick by your side and you will not die alone.
Wow. Jeez. And
thank you.
yeah. And were you ever fearful when speaking to him? Was there a panic button in the room and stuff like that?
I was surprised that I didn't have the Jodie Foster Silence of the Lambs experience of sitting behind a piece of glass with a telephone.
Hello, Clarice.
Dr. Lecter, my name is Clarice Starling. May I speak with you?
I've seen every movie you've seen. That is exactly what I expected. I walked into the general family visiting room. Like, they're, convicts, their families. There's a whole side of the room with Legos for kids. There's a photo booth. You can buy tokens. If you don't bring quarters, the only thing you bring in, oh, here you go. You're missing my glasses. I'm just pretending I can see you. The only thing you can bring in is your glasses.
Okay.
Quarters for the vending machines. Dollars, but you're taking a chance because they don't all take dollars. Sometimes they only take quarters. And you're not cool if you don't have quarters in this little plastic see-through bag. You have to run your hands through your belt. You have to do a whole thing to get through the metal detectors. And my aunt, who is a famous psychiatrist and my ace in the hole, told me one thing and I forgot it. She told me many things about what it was going to be like to talk to a psychopath. Most important thing was that you're not going to win. Go in knowing you're going to lose your shirt.
Okay.
Just figure out what it's worth. You're not going to win. You're not going to outlie him. You're not going to outthink him. Because you're not dealing with a neurotypical mind. You can't make the assumptions that he thinks like you. And I was like, it's going to be an adventure. And she's been a psychiatrist for 40 years at Massachusetts General Hospital. And she was just like, it's going to be what it's going to be, honey. And also, don't wear a bra with an underwire because it will set off the metal detectors.
Okay.
One thing I forgot. The one thing I forgot. And so I was just like, fine, I'll fucking just take off my bra, right? I was like, took out my bra, threw it in the trash, and they were like, where's the bra? I was just like, I took off the bra and threw it in the trash. And they're like, you can't walk into this prison without a bra on. So I had to go into the bathroom, pick my bra out of the trash, and then I had to chew out the underwire.
Oh, my word.
Because they won't give you a sharp object.
Yeah, that's dedication. Right there.
It was a suggestion from a mom coming. She's like, chew that out, honey. You got this. We've all had to do it.
Everyone does it.
All you gotta do is get that one thread, and then I chewed out the underwire of my bra to get into that prison. And so why did Sam talk to me? Because I'm the one who did that. Because I went, because I showed up, because I'm willing. And because it's not that I'm not scared. It wasn't scary being with him as much as it was having to face it. Having to look at this piece of humanity in such an in-depth way.
Yeah.
And go how do you reconcile that the only way you can feel sexual pleasure is to take the life out of a person?
Yeah.
And how do I reconcile that?
Yeah.
My idea of a soul, my idea of a God, my idea of goodness and evil, so that was the interesting question. I wasn't scared of him. There were guards there. Eventually they liked me, You know, I would get the trustees to like slip me a pencil once in a while because they had them for the kids, so they could draw. But otherwise, you couldn't bring in a pencil.
Yeah.
But you know, the trustees are once in a while be like, "Here's a pencil." You know? Can write it down. He talked to me because I showed up and because I don't think he's an animal. I think he's a person, and that's probably the scariest piece of it.
Well, he had, I read that he had unusually, and this is in the documentary as well, he had unusually big hands. Because, I mean, his method of killing was strangling.
Everything was done by manual strangulation. Did you ever use like a belt or cloth or
No
anything?
garrots and all that. No.
No ligatures at all?
My hands.
Just
And he had a, and he had a, did he have a photographic memory?
A photographic memory is somewhat of a myth.
Okay.
What he had was an exceptional memory. There really, I mean, in all the tests, then there has been maybe one at Harvard example of somebody who has an actual photographic memory, but it's not actually how memory works. What he had was an exceptional memory for certain details. It was what he was looking at, right? And then after that, he could draw it. So he had both those things. He had this remarkable memory and the ability then to render it. So he would remember like her color eyes, her, you know, like I mean, I even talked to Jim Holland about this. You know, I saw the same things in the drawings that Sam did, because Sam did hundreds of drawings, mostly of his victims. That I saw the same thing Jim Holland did. Like, other people looked at these drawings and saw, oh, there's like sadness in her eyes, or there's, you know, and I'm like, no, there's not. Like, you're sad. What there is hair color, eye color, like, you know, a profile. Something we can maybe, you know, there are people searching the Charlie Project, the Doe Project all the time who are like trying to make these connections, and people have. For me, they've said like, this drawing looks like this victim. You know, the web sleuth community, bless them. And so, you know, I mean, we just sort of saw the same things in the drawings, and I was willing to look. I mean, I think that's why he talked to me.
Okay. And what's the most disturbing confession that he has, or something that he has said to you?
All right. So those are two questions. I'll give you one, the most disturbing thing he said to me.
Okay.
And two, my worst confession. That still like lives in my heart, you know, and in my nightmares. One, the most disturbing thing he said to me was that every time he killed a woman, he asked God for forgiveness. You know, and it's in the Bible. St. Paul, you know, fell off his horse and asked for redemption, and between the stirrup and the ground, he was forgiven. All you have to do is ask and be forgiven. And I asked Sam, do you think in that moment that your victims were supposed to forgive you or forgave you? And he said, I would hate to see where they're going if they didn't.
Wow. Yeah, that's.
You know, I mean, he also said, if you don't shut your mouth, I'm gonna crawl through this phone and eat your fucking face off. I mean, like, he went full serial killer, and still that was the most disturbing thing he ever said to me, was if his victims didn't forgive him, they're going to hell.
Yeah, that's so.
Fuck you.
That is such.
I could have killed him myself.
Yeah.
At that moment.
That is such a crazy mindset. I mean, how do you get? Well, you know, how do you get to that place where you can even like say that and kind of be okay with saying that. It's
You get to that place by all you care about is you want and you take. That's it. That is it. That is the world you want and you take, and you'll justify it. Now, the most disturbing confession to me, the one that lives with me, is Marianne. Will always be Marianne, transgender woman in Florida, who Sam killed and put up a hell of a fight. Like, she, like I said, was a transgender woman and had a can of magic shave, which is, like my husband told me from being in the military, like that's what black men use to shave, like so they don't get ingrown hairs, right?
Okay.
And it like comes in a little paint can. It's powder, and you mix it up with like a proper shaving. So Marianne had a can of magic shave. Now I bought one because I'd never seen one.
Yeah.
And Sam's story was when she realized what was going on, like that she was in jeopardy, that he was pulling the car over, on the side of the 27 near the Everglades in Florida. She pulled the top of the can off, like a paint can. I mean, I was just like, I tried, and then I was like, my nails will come off my fingers. Her nails came off her fingers, and she threw the magic shave in his face, opened the door, and went running. And as Sam said, that's when the man came out of her. Like, she ran for her life. She fought for her life, and he is just, like a hound dog from hell.
Yeah.
And he took her and he dragged her back to the car, like her heels,
and drug her into the groups back there,
like just on her bloody heels, and she was like, fine, whatever you want from me. And he was like, okay, cool. Here's what I want from you. Wow. And he just killed her. And like, I just live with her. And there's like no way of finding her. It was 74. It was Florida. Yeah. I called around to LGBTQ centers saying, there's like, she'll definitely be misgendered, even if there's a cold case, if the body was ever discovered.
Yeah.
If anyone ever cared. Also, it was illegal to be transgender. So who's going to report it? Her friends? Walk in a police station and get arrested?
Yeah.
So Marianne. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he just, like in some of the interviews, he shows no remorse. I think there's video footage of him kind of referring to his victims as grapes. He would just pick grapes and
pluck me another grape. How many grapes y'all got on the vine here?
That was pretty much what it was to him. It's a different mindset. Yeah.
At the same time, they're grapes, and at the same time, they're angels, right? Women are angels. Yeah. Women are, really, it was his great disappointment that women shit and eat and feel and live just the same. Women were supposed to be angels.
Well, with regards to serial killers, there's obviously that big debate of nature versus nurture. But he had a strange relationship with his mom, as I understand it. 2 moms, okay.
Right, because he was raised by his paternal grandmother, who he thought was his mother.
Oh, okay.
Only met his birth mother at age 25 when she found him in prison.
Oh.
Yes. So he didn't know He thought Fanny and Henry were his parents.
That's the same as Bundy, because Bundy grew up thinking that his sister was his mom.
Yep.
Or his mom was his,
Something. Grandmother was the mom. Sister.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and they were both very strange. I mean, that's strange in and of itself. But Bessie May, his birth mother, we met when he was 24, 25, and got out of prison for the first time since he was 13. So that's, when you have to look for the empathy for someone, how much Sam was brutalized. He was brutalized. And you can't not look at that and say that, and when you look at the whys, that's part of the whys. It's not all of the whys.
Yeah.
Plenty of people who are brutalized and don't go on to brutalize, but it's a pattern that is worth looking at, and it's worth empathy. But yeah, his mother was a character. Had him when she was 16. A legless man in a goat cart took him to his paternal grandparents because they have these very distinctive eyes.
Okay.
Family. Sam has these very distinctive eyes. They're like, they change color. They're blue, green, gold, depends on how angry he is. And the men in his family have this, and apparently this guy in a goat cart looked at the baby and said, "That is Paul's baby, and I'm bringing him to his grandparents," and that's who raised him. Now, when he met Bessie May 25 years later, she was running a boarding house in Coconut Grove, Miami, which was the black area of town, and was just dragging him around, couldn't be more proud. My son. All she wanted was a grandchild, drilled a hole in his door to make sure he was having sex with his wife at the time. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Got in bed with him. He got in bed with her. The whole shebang. And yeah.
That was the result.
Yeah. His thing with women was real weird.
Yeah.
What? I don't there. How is that summation?
It's kind of like, I'm laughing. It's more out of nervousness. I mean, how the hell do you react to something like that? But yeah.
Well, I know, and I always feel like I have to either try to not laugh when I do these interviews, or like explain it.
Yeah.
How else do you do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, you try this.
Yeah. Geez.
Everyone, you try it. You try it and not be able to laugh.
Did he know he's the most?
Way.
No, there's no way. I mean, did he know he's the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history?
Yes, he did. And he started to get, really at the beginning, he was like, I want to be no one. I want to be anonymous. But then he started to get a little bit of fame as I started to put heat under the story.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was a forgotten story. It was 3 murders, not 5. It was, something else was going on at the time. Who knows? But, and it was not Idaho, what we're looking at right now, right? It wasn't, you found the absolute prettiest girls in town and killed them. Right? Like, obviously, that's a choice for recognition.
Yeah.
Because if the media loves anything in this country, it is a dead, pretty co-ed, white co-ed.
Yep.
And couldn't care anything less about one more black hooker.
Yeah, I mean, this case...
Maybe not. Maybe it's changing. Maybe this case will change it.
Well, hopefully.
I hope so.
Hopefully, yeah. Because, I mean, his case with, in relation to Bundy, Ramirez, Gacy. It's kind of backwards in a sense where everything's coming out after he's been caught. Instead of there being like a build-up, like, you know, BTK or, you know, who sent letters and, you know, there were newspapers saying that there's a serial killer on the loose. This whole thing is kind of backwards. I mean, I only heard about Samuel Little, I think, honestly, a couple of months ago.
I mean, I think the fact that the confessions are happening backwards, that they're jailhouse confessions, is the reason you only heard about it a few months ago. Also, it just happened.
Yeah.
It's so recent. And he confessed at the end of his life in prison. And until then, he was innocent. So, yes, I mean, in that sense, he didn't take advantage of being a Bundy or a Gacy who just decided to really go for it.
Yeah.
Really go for the sexy. Since they were nailed.
Yeah.
Like, they were just, and the thing that is least interesting about these serial killers to me is all the spooky shit. You know, all the letters, and I could show you 1,000 all caps letters about the, you know, boarding houses we're all living together in heaven with all their and they all say the same damn thing, and they don't live in a world of a fake horror movie. Like in a zombie movie, somehow everyone in that movie has never seen a movie about a zombie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Somehow a zombie is a total surprise. And we're meant to suspend our disbelief about that. Okay, yeah, zombies. Never heard of one.
Yeah.
But these serial killers have. You know, and they study each other and they say the same bullshit. And at the end of the day, I do believe they wanted and they took. They were hurt, every one of them. So was I. I didn't go out and murder 93 women. You know, it's not an excuse. It's just a piece of the why.
Yeah.
How their neurology works is a piece of the why. You know, they have like less frontal lobe activity.
Yeah.
Than I mean, hopefully you.
Yeah.
Maybe me.
Maybe. Did you ever struggle to like switch off after you know, interviewing him or getting him to speak? Yeah.
Did you ever try to?
Was it easy to switch off?
Oh God. Like, oh yeah, I just put down the phone and it was fine and walked on with my day. I mean, the hypervigilance of taking the phone calls all the time. I had to walk around with a purse, you know, with my phone and my reporter's notebook and everything, like in my own home.
Yeah.
You know, and when we were shooting the documentary, I couldn't have my phone on me all the time, obviously, right? So there was a PA who was holding my phone and was like, that was the most stressful thing I've ever, like the constant, like, you know, if I didn't pick up the phone, then I was like set up for weeks of torture.
Yeah.
For weeks of, I'm going to climb this phone, eat your face off, and I'm not giving you the information you want, and I'm going to lie, throw you off the trail, you know? So, like, I mean, will I ever get over it? No. It did something to me to see that up close. Like, to see the absence of empathy so profoundly up close, which he had plenty of empathy. It was just for himself.
Yeah.
So, it did something to me. I don't know what, and I'm going to have to say, like, read the next book. I don't know.
Well, on that note, your next book is titled Behold the Monster, Confronting America's Most Prolific Serial Killer. When is that coming out?
It is coming out mid-July in the U.S. I'm very proud of it. I am also doing a TikTok series right now in which I'm talking about Sam's cold cases that are still unsolved. So please, everybody, look at them. And if you have any ideas or tips, there's a line for the FBI. You can always reach me through my website, JillianLauren.com, as well.
Great. Jillian, thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, looking forward to the book. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it getting out and having the world, allowing the world to have its own response, and hopefully the response will be a mobilization around marginalized victims.